Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Sharon Let's Live with Marlene Dillon, Empowerment Specialist. So I'm following guidance, and the guidance I received today is to talk about becoming myself by releasing other people's opinions about me. It's kind of weird to say that when I'm talking about imagination, but the reality is that we're constantly imagining every time we see ourselves a certain way. What I realized over the last few days, a couple days ago, is that I have been seeing myself through the lens of other people who don't have a positive opinion of me. So even though I have a positive opinion of me, I would automatically put on their lens and look at myself and pre-criticize. And maybe you can relate to that. Because a lot of times we actually like ourselves and we see ourselves as good people, or we see the good that we're doing. We see that we're making progress. We see our growth. We see who we aren't anymore. We see all of that. But then we put on the lens. It's almost like, like people talking about rose-colored glasses. Like, I guess, pick whatever color you hate and then make the glasses that color. And then look at yourself. That's what we tend to do because I think that it's like a coping mechanism / a defense mechanism. Kind of like if you've ever seen somebody who typically got bullied and then eventually they started to make fun of themselves. And it's like, I'm going to say something about me before you say something about me. And that was their way of overcoming bullying. Like the reason why a lot of people ended up being comedians some of course do it just for the love of comedy. But many comedians started out cracking jokes about themselves or others to get people not to bully them or to not be impacted by the bullying. Like, I can crack a joke on myself first and then it doesn't hurt as much. And a lot of us, that's how we learn to cope with life, and learn to cope with being surrounded by critical people, whether it was like critical teachers or a parent that was always criticizing, or siblings who always had something to say, classmates, or the expectation of schoolmates being mean or whatever, that or even in the workplace, that we learn to anticipate what people are going to say against us, and then we use that as our way of preparing. But a lot of times we forget that the intention was that we were supposed to use it for our protection and to help us and to support ourselves in positive ways. And we just keep the practice going of criticizing ourselves, of criticizing our work, of critiquing ourselves in every possible negative way, forgetting that the original intention was a loving one. And what I realized is that embracing myself for other people's criticism, that I'm actually criticizing myself. And a lot of times they weren't going to say anything. I had a moment with a sibling recently where I was like, I know you're judging me, but blah, 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 blah. And they cut me off and they were like, you think I'm judging you, but I'm not. And it stung. Oh, it was so like, ugh. It sizzled a bit because I was like, oh, I didn't realize, one, that they acknowledged that I felt that way about them. And two, I wasn't expecting them to call me out on it. And three, I actually thought that they really were constantly judging me when in actuality, they're like, I'm not judging you. And it was just like, oh, my bad. And it was just like very eye-opening, and a little embarrassing in that moment. But I think that that's kind of how it is. A lot of times, like, if you had, for example, a very judgmental parent, or a parent who constantly criticized you, especially on certain topics, then it's very easy to begin to look for the mistakes, or if you have a parent who always, or a teacher or some person of influence, grandparent, aunt, whoever, who always pointed out your mistakes more than your successes or what you're doing right. It's very easy to get into a habit of looking for the mistakes. What am I missing? What am I doing wrong? Because you want to be prepared for it. Like, I know she's going to say that I didn't do this, or even at work, like I know they're going to, complain about this graphic, or they're going to complain about, this part of the presentation, or blah, blah, blah. And we get into the habit of seeing ourselves through a negative lens. And that's what I had been doing since childhood. And I realized it a couple days ago, maybe less than a couple of days ago. And it was a huge moment for me, because I realized that while I'm trying to manifest this dream life, that I believe is my real life, and that I'm like living in some sort of wrong fantasy, like a bad fantasy, like I don't know, like a nightmare, that while I'm living in this nightmare, I was feeling like it was justified. And that was like a huge thing for me to recognize. Like, I feel like this is what I deserve, that I don't have what I want to have because of this, and this. And then I realized that was me looking at me through the lens of people who don't really like me. Actually, I don't even need to add the little softeners. They don't like me, and probably never have. And when I look at myself through their eyes and through their critique, then I can't see the good in me either. But the reality is that I actually see my good. And that's why I'm so confused, or I have been so confused over the years. Like, why don't I have this? Why don't I have that? Why am I not able to succeed at this? Why isn't anyone buying these products that I know they're really good? Why isn't anyone buying my book? Why isn't anyone buying my course? Why aren't people listening to my podcast? Why aren't people reading my blog? Like, I know that this is good stuff. This is quality stuff. And not even like me like patting myself on the back or popping my own collar. I know that it's good because I receive it. It's not like I'm a smart person. I can acknowledge that. I'm insightful. Like, I can figure stuff out. Like, I can acknowledge that. But that's not the reason why I believe that my podcast or my book or my course or the things that I do, my speaking events, I don't think that that's the reason why my stuff is awesome and like worthy of compensation, worthy of attendance and clients and customers. It's because I receive it. Like, it flows through me. Like, I walk into a room, once have I ever prepared for a speaking event. And that was the one time that I did a sermon at my dad's church. He's a pastor in Chicago. I did a sermon at his church, and you got to write your sermon. You can't just go up there and wing it. So you need scriptures and stuff. So that was the one time. Every other time that I've done a speaking event, I did not prepare. I wanted to prepare. But my mind just wouldn't let me. I don't know if it was the anxiety or if that's just the way that I'm wired, that I'm a vessel and the words they flow in and out. Like, I don't even hear them. My mouth opens and words just come out. And to the point where when I write my blogs, I'll go back and read them, like, maybe like Facebook does a reminder thing or whatever. It's like, hey, remember when you wrote this? And I'm just like, wow, that's some good shit. Because I don't even remember it. Because I didn't like sit there figuring it out. I just wrote it. It came to me. And so when I'm like promoting, a product or my course and all that type of stuff, my children's book, I'm Proud to Be Natural Me, it's just like, why aren't people buying this stuff? This stuff is awesome. But then I realized that what I am putting out, I'm filtering it through the lens of people who don't like me and people who have a negative opinion of me. So I'm putting out a product while I'm thinking nobody's going to want to buy that. Nobody's going to want to pay that amount for that. Nobody wants to hear you speak. Nobody thinks what you have to say is valid. I'm hearing, like, in my mind, without intentionally doing it, I am imagining people experiencing me the way the people who know me the least and like me the least experience me. Which is goofy because, there's like two people. By comparison to all the wonderful people who see my value, who think that what I'm doing is positive and inspiring and uplifting and supportive and encouraging and empowering. But my mind immediately puts on the glasses of nobody's going to want to hear you because these people didn't want to hear you. Nobody thinks you have value because these people didn't think you have value. Nobody is going to pay you that amount because these people would never pay that amount to see you, to hear you, to purchase your, whatever pair of earrings that you made or a course that you wrote. And the thing is that it would always be this confusion, like even up to within 24 hours of now, there's always been this confusion of it doesn't make sense. Like, I know the stuff is good. People say it's good. Why aren't they buying it? And I finally realized, like, I'm experiencing the expectations that I hold because I'm wearing a lens that does not belong to me. So I'm about to take off the fucking lens. I hope you read the caption. I tell you that I do speak freely. I'm an adult. And spent most of my life trying to hide the fact that I cuss, but I do. So this is your warning. So sorry if that one caught you unawares. It's in the thing. I wrote it to make sure that you knew. So, but yeah, I'm taking off the lens. It's time for me to drop the lens of people who don't like me, people who don't see me. It's like creating with the trolls in mind. Like that's going to pervert the work. Screw the trolls. Trolls are going to be trolls. It's kind of like that Lil Wayne line of hoes gonna be hoes, so you can't blame Tammy or whatever. Like it's the same. It's the same concept. Trolls gonna be trolls, and we can't create to please them. And that's what I was starting to do. It was just like, oh, well, I can't price this according. Like, I was pricing my products so low because in my mind, I'm imagining that same person saying like, that's too expensive. People work hard for their money and they can't afford that and blah, blah, blah. Which is why my course only costs $29.99 when every single coach I know has been like, you need to raise your prices. I'm like, well, I raised it from $19.99. Like, be proud of me. And it's just like, I have to stop filtering what I do through them. Stop filtering what I desire for my life through their opinions, because some of us have a grand vision of life. Some people will happily have a studio apartment, and ride the bus, and that is life, and that feels great, and I support whatever feels great for you. I'm meant to be in an extremely large house with extremely large rooms, not a whole bunch of rooms. Like, I don't need 40 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms, but I would like a house that is equivalent, and then the rooms are gigantic. I like space. I like lots of space. Like, you can probably hear the echo now because I move all my furniture to the walls because I like space. And in my mind, I'm not allowed to have this gigantic house because I didn't acquire it through the blood, sweat, and tears of working for somebody else and wait until I got a pension and now I can finally retire because my kids are off, I don't want that. Like, blessings to everyone who did it that way. I am amazed by you. I think that it is a feat that I can't even process. The idea of going to a job I hate for 40, 50, 60 years. I can't even imagine that. Like, my mind, my body would not physically do that. I've tried. I've tried. I've had jobs where I just could not get out the car. Like, all I could do is sit in the parking lot and cry. Like, my body will not allow me to do that. Wanted to. I will psychologically just shut down. So, so I've been living my life trying to figure out how to do life the way other people do it. And my mind and body is just like, nope, we're not doing that. So, so I'm finally like, wait a minute. If I stop trying to be like everyone else, if I stop trying to be the way that I'm told I'm supposed to be, if I stop viewing myself through the eyes of haters and start to, I don't know, maybe until I can like really look at myself the way that I should, maybe it's okay to put on the glasses of the people who actually like me. The people who feel that I'm inspiring, the people who feel that I'm doing well, the people who feel I'm a good mother, the people who feel that I am, that I'm successful, the people who see the things that I've done and consider those as achievements. It was like maybe a couple months ago that I did a blog because I realized that I had never really acknowledged any of my achievements. People would tell me like, oh, you do this and you did that and you did that. And I don't even listen to them because I was looking at myself through the eyes of how much money do I have? How much can I buy? What can I buy? What can I do? Where can I go? And in my mind, that was true achievement. So all the things that I've done, I never put any weight in that stuff because it was like, yeah, that's great. But how much money do I have in my bank account? And now I'm realizing like, I gotta recognize that that's me looking at me through their glasses. When I look at me through my own eyes, I don't see that stuff. I don't base my value of other people on how much money they have. I don't base the way that I value people on how many trips they get to take a year. I don't choose to value people based on those kinds of things. So why should I do that to myself? So what I recognized day before yesterday, I think it was, is that as I continue to look at myself through those people's eyes, I also see my dreams as possible or impossible based on their standards. So I'm not manifesting the life that I want or the things that I have been calling forth for decades, because when I look at those things, I put the glasses back on and I say, without thinking it, I see it as, you don't get to have that. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. You didn't do that. You don't have this. You don't have this. You don't have that. You don't deserve this. You don't deserve that. So again, taking the glasses off and recognizing that based on my standards, I definitely get to have it. I definitely deserve it. And deserving isn't even a thing when I look through my own eyes, because based on my belief system, it's not based on like who deserves or who doesn't deserve. It's based on expectation. It's based on vision and expectation. It's not based on who's more deserving or who's not. Because if it was based on who deserves it, there are a lot of people who have had lots of power who are the scum of the earth. And just because they have money is not because they deserve it more than a good-hearted person. It's because they expect to have it. They feel they get to have it. So they have it. And I am shifting out of looking at myself through the eyes of people who feel I don't get to have it, to looking at myself through my own eyes and through the eyes of people who see value in what I do, in who I am, how I show up in the world, and shifting so that I can actually manifest the things that I desire, the things that I believe I'm worthy of. And that is my challenge for you today. If you're in a place in your life where you feel like I deserve better than this, and I know it, whether it's in relationships, like why do I always end up with these people who don't see my value, who mistreat me, etc., it might be helpful to see if you have someone in your history, even if it was just an ex, who's told you that this is what you deserve. Because I had one of those, a toxic narcissist, who tore down my self-esteem and told me that I don't deserve anything and that I barely deserved him, and and I believed him. But it was easy because I had had other people in my life who tore me down like that. So when he did it, it was like, oh, I guess that's just the consensus about me. It wasn't even new. So I challenge you to begin to look at your past and look at and see if you can figure out, what lens are you looking at yourself through? What lens are you looking at your dreams through? And be willing to take it off over and over and over again. It's just like forgiveness. Forgiveness is not a one and done type of thing, unless you like some type of magical somebody, or maybe, you're more spiritual than me. But what I've learned is that forgiveness is something that it's a decision that you have to keep making. Like every time the thought comes to you to be offended, upset, bothered, that you're like, no, I let that go. And I think that that's the same way that it works with this lens of viewing ourselves, our possibilities, etc., through the eyes of those who don't really see us. That over and over and over again, we get to remove that lens. This is Marlene Dillon, Empowerment Specialist. Thank you for imagining with me. Have an amazing whatever time of day it is for you. Blessings. To learn more about me, Marlene Dillon, Empowerment Specialist, please visit mdillondesigns.com. There you can find more podcast episodes. You can read my inspirational blog. You can check out my online store of personalized gifts featuring the characters from my empowering children's book, I'm Proud to Be Natural Me. You can find parenting resources, including my online communication course, Healing Our Families, Healing the Parent-Child Relationship. Please follow and share if you found this podcast inspiring.